Good morning, everyone. This is Ron. I hope and trust we all had a good week this morning. It's a good week this week, and starting off with having a good morning. Uh, as usual, we'll see if we have any questions based on what we've discussed last week or any of the other sessions, or anything you may have observed during the week. So, any questions, guys? Questions or comments? Well, let me ask one. How's everybody feeling these days? How are you doing? How are you coping in life? A lot's going on out there. There's a lot of confusion in the world. How does that make you feel? Where are we? Lots of distractions. So everybody's okay, I suppose. Okay. Uh, if you have no questions or anything, I see something here that I kind of stumbled on in Genesis. If you guys will help me unravel it, because I think I see it in part, and I don't see all of it. Turn with me, if you will, to Genesis 4, and I'm going to read something here, and we'll begin our discussion. Are we there? You guys there? We're at Genesis 4.
We've got a group of 10 people or so. We're just very quiet, I guess, this morning.
Okay. Well, I hope we can get a discussion out of this. I saw something here that I thought was kind of interesting. Uh, I'm going to start at verse 1. I'm not going to read all of 4. It's something I want you to see, though. uh, Starting at verse 1 in chapter 4 of Genesis, says, Now the man had relations with his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain. And she said, I have gotten a man child with the help of the Lord. And again she gave birth to her brother Abel, and Abel was the keeper of flocks, but Cain was the tiller of the ground. Okay. Now, we know that story, and that's not what I want to talk about today. You can if you see something there, but I want to flip over. Look at the latter part of this chapter, verses 24 and 25. It says, And Adam had relations with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth. For she said, God has appointed me another offspring in place of Abel. And we all know that Cain slew Abel, right? So Cain killed Abel. And to him also a son was born. He called his name Enosh. Then men began to call upon the name of the Lord. Okay, here's where it gets a little interesting. I'm looking at the beginning of chapter 5 of Genesis. It says, This is the book of the generation of Adam. In the day when God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. He created them, male and female, and blessed them and named them man in the day that they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he became the father of a son in his own likeness, according to his image, and he named him Seth. Then the days of Adam, after he became the father of Seth, were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. And so in the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. What do you see there? Is that is that seem something's missing there to you? What do you guys see there? Anybody?
It's interesting to me that first it talks about Seth being in his own likeness and not the other two from earlier. And then it doesn't necessarily say he had those children with Eve.
Well, that's yeah. That's why I went back to chapter 4. It says in that first verse, and now man had relation with his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth. So why doesn't it mention them in chapter 5? Is that not interesting?
Wasn't there talk of a Lilith as well prior to Eve when you look at the scholars' writings?
Yeah, and I tried to find that. I found some other writings that talked about that, but I saw nothing that tells me that this chapter 4, verse 1 should not be Eve, should be someone else. Because it specifically said with his wife Eve. So I don't that part I didn't dismiss it, but I did not see evidence of it. I tell you what I believe, and I believe that, of course, this is purely spiritual, and I believe that because it was spiritual, Adam and Eve, I mean Cain and Abel represent, and this is debatable. I'm just putting this out here, kind of trying to see this. Cain and Abel represents the thoughts and the confusion of Adam. If the sons and daughters, the root word of it means offspring, or that to build upon, what is being built upon. He has two thoughts that traditionally is in every one of us, but also go in opposite directions. So they represent his confusion, his light side and his dark side, and he decides, because of what happens between Cain and Abel, he decides, or he comes to a place of understanding, and in his understanding, in his place of awareness, he intentionally, this next son, brings about clarity as to the lineage of what the spiritual man is supposed to look like. Does that make sense at all?
I can see that. I am. It's interesting to me that if the first occurs, the first three with Eve, with his feminine side, but then it disconnects from her for the last part of it. To me, that's interesting too.
Hey, you say disconnect. Say that again. What part is that?
We know when chapter 5, when it talks about him going on to have sons and daughters and living for 900 something years, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lauren, did you already say that sons and daughters represent thoughts?
Yes.
So
yes.
Whatever the prevailing attitude of Cain and Abel are, well, spiritually Abel, we're talking about Cain really, and his
Yeah.
thought was very selfish, and his thought was anger, and his thought. So the children that he has represented the thoughts that were prevailed in him. Is what you said.
Yeah, that's how I'm seeing it. Do you see something different?
No, that's it.
Yeah, it just kind of actually I stumbled on this kind of trying to look at Enoch, looking at where his journey started, and I saw this and it just kind of grabbed my attention here, because when you follow this out, Seth through the lineage, if you will, becomes the father of Noah, not literally, but great grandfather, if you will. But that's where that lineage starts, where the earth is repopulated. It comes through Seth. So and even when I look at the Gnostic Bible, which can be a little confusing, some of the stuff it talks about, but it talks about Seth being kind of the line of enlightenment, the line of awareness. So it kind of goes along with that thought that Adam kind of got his act together and became enlightenment, became or at least a different place of awareness, has a deeper thought or a more enlightened thought, and the product is Seth.
Hey, Ron, this is Audrey. Good
Yes.
morning.
Good morning.
I read a long time ago the book of Adam from the Apocrypha. And that was really interesting to me because in that book, it characterized Adam as sort of, I don't know, immature. It was almost as if he was created a man, but had the mind of a child, and he had to sort of come into who he was.
Okay.
So that kind of sounds like the same thing to me. I mean,
It
if
does. Yeah.
you get a chance to read that book in the Apocrypha, it
Okay.
might
I will.
give some enlightenment.
Yeah. And that supports what we're talking about. There was you see at the latter part of verse 25 in chapter 4 that Seth is means God appointed me another offspring, and I further kind of tried to research him, and one author that I really like is name is Benner, Benner. I've come to kind of trust his work when I'm looking stuff up, but he talks about the root meaning means to set something in place, something that was out of place, and you set it back in place. So the Abel then never reached a place of maturity, and Seth is what is being put in that place. So I thought that was interesting too. And you trace it on out, it talks about to set something or to appoint something or to fix something or to be a substitute for. So yeah, I just stumbled on this and thought it was kind of interesting. And and even looking at it from the perspective that we're seeing it, what does that say to us? I mean, as far as the earth is concerned, what does it say to you as far as putting things in place that may be out of place?
Well, Ron, I think to talk to that, it's interesting to look at what happens to Cain, right? He was guarded, uh, that thought that it was guarded in those cities, the sanctuary cities, and couldn't be killed. Um, and if we talk about maturation or it's almost like don't those thoughts need to be redeemed. So it wasn't appropriate just to kill them, but to actually mature them too.
Yeah, and I've always found that interesting. What mature them for the point of as being a compass, you know. Uh, for example, if you tell me to go east, I need to have some reference points to other directions to know which direction is east, right? So was that maturity supposed to be a compass for us? Was it supposed to be uh, something to work on in you to turn from darkness to light? That's an interesting point.
It could also be a metaphor for what people would have to go through. Because as we've said before, everybody has to find their path to the Creator. Everybody goes on that journey. Everybody comes into the maturity of realizing who they are and knowing the Creator. So it could be a metaphor for all of that too.
Yeah, I like that. And I agree with that. That sounds like it fits very well. Anyone else?
I just have a question about that. That it being a metaphor that way. It always confused me that you didn't kill that thought. That's what Christianity talks about. Modern day is subjugating or killing. These bad thoughts. What would Jesus do? And this seems different. Almost opposite of that preaching.
You're right. So it goes back to part of what I remember about studying the eighth sense. That memory is very extremely important. That history or that path that we take, the journey of this life, the not so pleasant things have just as much of a stronghold or a what am I looking for? They help you make those decisions, those right decisions, as much as anything else. In fact, maybe more so. So that memory is what builds the strength of who you are, looking at where you've come from. I think the one of the other things that it pointed to me was the strength of who we are, and I think every day, at least we have opportunity anyway to see how strong we are as far as being spiritual beings and what it means to be the human. And what it says to me is no matter what you find yourself entangled in, no matter how far you go in this direction, use it as a catalyst to come back. You can always come back. And undoubtedly, not just coming back to that place where you were, it makes you stronger, it elevates you. So what it sounds like to me is Seth becomes the elevated or the awareness of what Abel was. He is the maturity of what was immature. That first immature thought, although it was a righteous thought, it never reached its potential. So as we grow, as you guys have stated, we use that darkness to help propel us. And when we move to a place of enlightenment, we're at a more elevated place than we started. So it is never too late. There's always opportunity. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think you're right. And I think that's the other message of the Cain story. It's never too late. I mean,
yeah,
you can always, God always offers an opportunity. You just have to sort of see it or realize it. That's all I wanted to say.
yeah. Okay. The other thing I did not have a chance to do, I was in about to start this path when I looked up, and because I logged in a little late today because I kind of lost track of time. But I wanted to look at these numbers, like let's see, somewhere here it tells you that Adam was in verse 4, in the days of Adam, when he became the father of Seth, were 800 years. Excuse me, and he had other sons and daughters. So, only thing I can think with that 8 is the derivative of 800 is derivative of 8, and maybe just a stronger version of 8. But 8 talks about starting over. 8 talks about something being full and overflow, something that is fat, and you're starting it over, or you're getting a new beginning, or a new chance, a new opportunity. So I looked at it, and the verse 3, when Adam had lived 130, I could not find anything on 130, and it didn't dawn on me till later to look it up as the number 13, because maybe it's the same thing, version of 13, but I did not get a chance to look at the gematria of those numbers to see what significance that they play, because there's a lot of numbers here. And of course, I didn't go any further than verse 5, I think 4 or 5. But there's a lot in here. So any other question? I'm sorry, go ahead, someone. Any other questions or comments? Anybody see anything?
Is it, Jackson, do you have a question about?
Hello?
They're a little hard to hear.
Okay, I have my earbuds in. Ron?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, are you asking if we have questions about what we're talking about now? Because I logged in a little late as well.
Well, we were discussing something in Genesis, the 5th chapter. But if you had questions about something else, of course.
Okay. Well, I'll wait till someone else may have a question. I don't know about what you were just talking about.
Well, for anyone who've logged in late, maybe we were looking at the 5th chapter of Genesis, and it just caught our attention that if you look at this 5th chapter, it talks about the lineage or the descendants of Adam, starting with Seth, and not mentioning Cain and Abel. And we were talking about the spiritualness of that, what that means. And
well, I wouldn't want you to go back to that because I can always listen to the recording later. But
I have a question about something else, and I'll just wait till you finish with what you're dealing with now.
Well, are we finished? Because I don't, like I said, I did not look up these numbers, and I don't know if they shed any further light on this, if there's nothing that anyone else sees in this. I like Audrey's thought when she talked about the immaturity of Adam, and I think that too fits here. I think Adam represents us coming into our spiritual selves, not having a clue as to who we are in relationship to the Creator, and having to experience that and kind of walk into it, and that's what we're doing now. I mean, if you think about where we all began, where our journeys began, and it even our fathers and grandfathers and whatnot, probably to me, and that's my opinion, I don't mean to insult anyone, but I think the generations past had probably a more spiritual grasp of things than we do today. They didn't have the technology. They had each other, and maybe they couldn't quote scripture. Maybe they couldn't even read, but they had each other. They had a sense of community. And in a lot of sense, I listened to my dad talk and my granddad talk, and no talk of poverty was there. They didn't say how poor they were. They knew that if one had, they all had, and if something happened in the community, it affected everybody. So they banded together. They were one people, and they didn't necessarily have to be all related. So to me, we have, in a spiritual sense, maybe we're more educated, but we're probably less mature spiritually than we've ever been as a people. And like I said, I don't mean that to be insulting. It's just my observation and my experiences in throughout the years.
Well, Ron, I just thought of something when you were talking. You were saying how we have to come into the walking with God, and it only mentions Enoch as walking with God. From Adam to Enoch, only Enoch is mentioned to have walked with God. So that to me is just an illustration that it took a while for them to come into their knowledge of the Creator and realizing who exactly they were. So yeah, I agree. It takes a while to come into that knowledge and to walk with God.
I agree, Audrey. This started, I was at work the other day, and I was, my mind has to go somewhere else at work sometime for me to kind of engage in it and be okay about it. But I was thinking about something Pastor said years ago when he talked about giving up your free will. And when I think about stuff like that, I always question myself, where are you in that? Is that, are you at the same place you were then? Or are you, is there something, that has changed you? So in my contemplation and looking at this, I always think of Enoch, and I go back to that because I'm thinking walking with that. To me, that's what walking with God means, that I have given up my personal journey and my ambitions. And so when we look at who we are now, the journey that we're on, and we're talking about loving kindness and being forgiveness and understanding these concepts, to me, that's the same as walking with God. That's what I see, and I'm just looking at that kind of led to this. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. But if anything that I have that I see personally in all the lessons that we do is when we come to an understanding, when we come to an awareness and see who we are, we can understand the power in this, not a power from outside of self, but a power that you engage in being one with the universe and the rhythm that puts you in as far as reaching the goal of being enlightenment, being love and unity. And to me, this is powerful to say that this lineage, this journey can start where I choose it to start, even though these things that happen to me and they're in my past, they're in my memory. I choose to be enlightenment, and my new beginning starts with me being enlightenment, and I use that darker side of me to be the inspiration or the catalyst to help me to see where I go next. It becomes my compass.
One of the other things in this story, as well as others, you talked about Enoch, who's walking with God. Well, if you look at David, a man after God's own heart, he was led by God, but he fell. He fell, but he didn't stay there, and that's a lesson to us as well. When we think we got it, and something happens, and we don't fulfill our potential, the issue is not to just stay there, but to go back and set your intent again and move on and not beat yourself up.
Yeah, very well said. You're exactly right. And you also point out, Barbara, how repetitive the scriptures are. We see different ways to see the same message over and over again. And that says something. That says something to me about our makeup, who we are, and how much we stumble. And it says also that it's okay because of who our Creator is, and He gives us opportunity to find ourselves and find our steps, and to get up and keep moving, just as you're saying. So that is very empowering. And anyone else, anything else you guys see in this? But thank you. And we're not done with it if you have any more other questions or comments, but I did want to open it up and see if we have any questions that we're able to answer, or any observations outside of this, if someone wants to continue in that direction. Evelyn, did you have a question?
I do, but it's well, everything we talk about always deal with the same thing, basically. But my question is, I don't know if anybody else feeling this way, but I feel that we're in a different place now. I don't know. I don't want to use the term shift. There's a shift that is taking place. I don't know what word to use, but I feel different. I kind of feel light now. And I don't know if because of what we've been studying and talking about or putting out there in the macro, but is it just me that I know that there's real events that's occurring. I know that, but it's like I have peace now about everything. And it's like I'm in the eye of a storm. I see the storm raging. I see things happening, but I feel so much lighter now. And maybe it's just me. I don't know. But that's what I want to ask.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn. And congratulations. I like that. Anyone else? Anyone want to expound on what Evelyn is saying, or how are you feeling? well, I'll go next then. Evelyn, in a way, I do understand exactly what you're saying. What I have noticed, and there I agree with the shift wholeheartedly. One of the things I've noticed though is here lately, I have become more sensitive to things that I see, things that I won't say that I would not have paid attention to in the past, but I'm more sensitive when I see things as far as what other people are going through. They've always been there, but for some reason now it gets captured in my radar a little faster. And that in a way is positive to me because it keeps me in a meditative state. It keeps me in that certain place, and that may be the purpose for it. So I think attitude is everything. And this week I found myself kind of working on that. There are things that you see that you can't always change, at least not in the state of mind that I'm in. But if I can see the positive, if I can see the enlightenment in it, if I can see who I am, a lot of times it brings me a better answer or helps me see if not a solution, but a way to cope with it or to deal with it or how to meditate on it. Because I think that is why we see a lot of things. I think that if things are to change, it has to be brought to the light. And if we are to the light, that becomes my meditation. Okay, what is this that I see? And what do I do? And a lot of times it's nothing but becoming aware of it and giving thought to it and concern to it. So, yeah, congratulations. I love where you are. I'm not quite there yet, but I think we're all on the right path. At least I hope so.
Well, Ron, I
And I
just
hope
made a
that-
conscious decision that nothing bad can happen to me, and I don't know what life is going to bring me, but I do know that I am in control of my destiny. I am in control of how I'm going to deal with certain situations. And there are things that I can't deal with. I'm at the point now I made a conscious decision. I'm not going to worry about it anymore because I know God loves me. I am God. I am Elohim. And I just wanted to put that out there.
And I couldn't agree with you more. I could. The thing that and please someone else speak to this. The things that I seem to have trouble with is things that happen to other people. I don't particularly, every now and then I get bogged down on me, but it doesn't happen nearly as often as it used to. Mainly the things that upset me or get me out of kilter or throw me out of balance is when I see things that happen to other people. And that's the avenue I was talking about. As far as self, I couldn't agree more with you. I am proud of that journey that the Creator has allowed me to take, as far as seeing Ron and not being so consumed with what happens to him. But the other parts of it, I still kind of waver sometimes.
Evelyn, I think what you've done is given us a real example of setting the direction of your intent. And when we think about doing that, it's kind of, you can't quite grasp what it means, but you've just given us a real good example of what it means. So that's how we do it.
Yeah.
So again, do y'all feel that there's a shift that has taken place? Well, you did say that, yeah. Okay. I just feel, and maybe it's just an individual thing. I don't know. It's just that I'm in another place right now. And I know we all have our way of receiving information and feeling a certain way, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm done.
I had a conversation with Monique Thursday. We were, I just, have you ever felt just high as a cloud and I needed to call? I don't care what popped in my head, what I saw, it didn't bother me. And I had a great day. And I remember, I was thinking about the scripture where Jesus talks about loving God with all your heart, with all your soul, and what that means to me. And I experienced that, and it kept me there all day. And how wonderful that felt. And I remember even having the thought, wow, I wish I could stay here forever. I wish I could keep this elevated state of mind. So I do see what you're saying. Of course, I had a good day Friday too. I think by Friday afternoon I was kind of feeling a little exhausted and a little beat up, but I still felt good. But yeah, I have those moments that I don't always sustain them, but I do have those moments as well. So.
And one more thing, Ron, too. I said I was finished, but I realize God is not sitting high and looking low. And the more we realize that we're Elohim and that we can change our situations, well, yeah, we can change our situations. I'm not saying that they're not going to keep coming, but we can, as we talked about, we can transform anything that comes to us that is unright. And I just realized God is not going to come down, like we said, and save us, because we are Elohim and we in control of our lives. And I am, again, made a conscious decision. I'm going to deal with things that's happening. I have that power. So that's where I am. That's all I'm saying.
And you reminded me of something Pastor said last week. Jesus did not come to save us and to show us how to save ourselves. And you're right. As we come into who we truly are, we're seeing that, and we're walking in it. And it does become ebbs and flows sometimes. And what you're describing is you've learned to walk above that. That's beautiful.
Okay, Enoch. Enoch, Evelyn.
I hear you, my sister. But Audrey, that's where I am. And I'm just so grateful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think what we discuss on these lines is can be summed up in one word: beauty. You are the balance of the universe. It is how we breathe. It is what we take in. It is what we allow to consume us. And that's what we're discussing. And sometimes we do, things get to us. We get beat down. We have family issues. We have things where we see people inhumanly treated, things that we see happen to other people. And we become heavy, but the meditation, as Evelyn's saying, and the breathing and the recognition that I think we get a glimpse of every time we gather on this line, to see who we are and what this is about, the purpose. And because we have put ourselves in this position, the weight of it is supposed to be heavy. But what, as Evelyn is describing, we're learning to bear that burden, and to be at the bottom of the totem pole doesn't always have to be something that's so critical that it weighs you down. So the balance of it is the spiritual part, the recognition of self, and the learning to meditate, the learning to breathe, the learning to pick up the phone and support each other, and recognizing that we are enlightenment and we are the number 8. We are the new beginning of mankind. And we use these dark side, we use all this negative energy, and we turn it into light. It is our past, it is our history, it is our memory, but it's also a catalyst to move us forward. And I think that is the lesson that Evelyn gives us. I think that's the lesson that we see in Genesis 5 as well. Is there anything else, y'all?
I was actually, hello everyone to the show, thinking the same thing, your response in the one word, Ron, in terms of beauty, with what Evelyn said. Also, something that I've been, thinking about for a while, and I wanted to mention in regards to what the two of you just said, and it's the idea when you mentioned actually having empathy and sympathy for people, or in other words, actually relating to them with whatever condition that they may be going through. And sometimes to maintain that which Evelyn explained, while at the same time trying to have sympathy, empathy, and relate to, can seem at odds and in the way from getting from one to the other. And in doing that, and just also from my own personal understanding, having to realize that and see this, it is kind of like a fine line in that process where while you are empathizing and sympathizing and relating, it's not that you're looking at the situation as being dire or terrible that they're in. Is simply having an understanding of where they are and appreciation with where they are, but at the same time seeing where I guess the promise that is there, and you see their ability to transcend and grow out of that situation or overcome that situation. So still remaining, having the ability to see, I don't want to say the God-like abilities, but to see the Elohim within them, within that situation, and therefore them not being powerless. An opportunity for they themselves to grow and to enact that power they are. So in a sense, you were able to still see the light in the situation while relating to the situation. And because of seeing that light, it, for lack of better words, brings you hope, or also brings you joy, so to speak. And even in doing that, we are then transforming not only the energy around their situation, and in a sense sending those positive electromagnetivity towards them, but we're also changing ourselves from within as we do that. And my apologies if there's a lot of noise in the background. I'm kind of in a situation where I had to get away to be able to speak, so I'm pretty much in the middle of the woods on a little path, sitting on a bench.
Thank you, though. I like that. That helps me tremendously.
Yes,
To blend
yes.
those. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the
All right.
key, oh, sorry, the key in all of this and the big difference in this is when we cannot connect at all, well, I guess what I'm trying to explain is to empathize and sympathize with someone doesn't mean it doesn't have to mean that you feel sorry for their situation. And so, at least just speaking for myself, from my own learning and understanding, it always seemed like it was two choices: someone who would just be indifferent and not care, so it doesn't matter what the person is going through. So in that way, of course, it's easy to have peace about the situation because you couldn't care less about, in a sense, going to use the biblical term, your neighbor. However, it seems like if I care about my neighbor, I'm just automatically taking on my neighbor's problems, and so I'm just doubling whatever problems that I may be going through. Why in the world would I want to compound my problems? You know, this seems like sanity, or quite frankly, putting myself through hell. Well, that is what I mentioned. The key. It is not for us to feel sorry for our neighbor. It is to see the promise in the neighbor, see the light in the neighbor, radiate and, in a sense, empower that light in the neighbor. And like I said, to see their ability, their giftedness. That don't mean that you don't help where you see fit, but the point is you see the situation is overcome or triumph. And like I said, you also see that within yourself. It is when we fail to see the light or fail to see the Elohim that we buy into that there's powerlessness, and in a sense we project that powerlessness at the time, both within ourselves and without. So I just wanted to try to explain and bring to light that which is a little bit different and nuanced, but extremely important and big at the same time. I'm finished.
Thank you, Sheldon. Yeah, I readily receive that, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes I do feel overwhelmed about some of the stuff I see, and I have to come back to myself because I think if this world is a big cake bowl and someone's mixing the ingredients, we're the ones stirring this up. We're the ones that put this on high speed, and some of the things that is being brought to the light is based on our desire to see truth and to bring everything, fix everything that is still in darkness or in confusion. So it's kind of counterproductive to allow it to overwhelm you. But to go back to something you said, something else that kind of experimental that kind of took place by accident with me, and you said this to me anyway, not in these words. I can't think of here anything that I've asked the universe for, or to show me, or to explain to me, or to give me, that I don't see at some point. You know, there are some things that, again, kind of involve some like healness and wellness and that kind of thing, and how to you know, those things are coming, I think, at a different way, or maybe the tough part of that is it has never been what I thought it would be, that I thought it was. So maybe that's the difficulty there. But anything that I've asked to see that has to do with bringing wellness to mankind, the universe shows to me, and that to me, I don't try not to lose sight of. Oh yeah, you're right. The key is not being overwhelmed, because when you do, you can't see anything. You lose sight of what you started off trying to be.
And what you just described also is how we work as, in a sense, a magnet, and that's part of the Elohim or the creatorness that we actually talk about in terms of us bringing into our reality that which we focus on, in a sense, and dare I say, actually, desire. And what I mean by desire is our how that works is our desire is our focus. They kind of work hand in hand, in a sense, because just to I guess to make a simple analogy, if I feel as though that, and well, I don't even necessarily have to be poor, but if I constantly concentrate or wish on being able to have my needs met, just my my minor needs, not my minor needs, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like nothing extravagant, just to be able to exist and go on. Well, if I approach that, study seeing myself as a threat of not being able to do that, then what I'm actually concentrating on, or the conditions that I'm creating within myself, is automatically not having, even though that's not the actual reality at the particular moment. I could be doing, okay, but because I'm so afraid of thinking that I'm not going to have in the future, and so let's just say I am wishing that I have more wealth, in a sense. My whole wishing that I have more wealth is a fear of trying to ward off what I actually truly believe is inevitable. But my true belief is that I don't have anything, even though currently I do. And so I am creating those conditions to basically prove true that I don't have anything, versus being in that situation and not having that fear, and actually only able to see myself in a sense in wealth. And this is very, very simple, just to get the concept over. But seeing myself in wealth, but while seeing myself in wealth, that threat of not having anything is actually not there. So that is what I'm creating, because that is what I truly believe in. I truly believe that I am, of wealth, wealthy. And like I said, this idea of not having anything, that's the furthest thing away from my mind. So I say all that to say, as you have that desire and actually believing too that you can see what is best for mankind and yourself, so you're drawing those things to you as a magnet. If you were to stop believing that you actually have the ability to do that, no matter how much you said it, it would start to cease to happen. It is actually what we truly believe in underlying everything that makes everything happen. Not just saying it, believing it wholeheartedly. That is exactly the peace that, and the belief in that peace, in spite of whatever that Evelyn explained earlier today, a little while ago.
So, Sheldon, so is it believing or knowing? I mean,
well, yeah, it was a lack of better words when I said belief. It actually is knowing, because it is knowing, and the knowing is essentially much more stronger belief, and a belief can change, but knowing is something that just is. It in itself cannot change. So many times, for example, how we have lived our lives, that stuff that we thought we knew, they were actually just beliefs. No matter what we believe in, for example, we are not just some rag dolls, for example, in the way that we were taught. So we can't know that we were rag dolls. We believed in the past that we were rag dolls. We are creators, we are Elohim, and we will always be that. So that is something that we're able to know because it is true to the truest essence. So in terms of the knowing of the peace, that is something that is knowable.
Okay.
Well, yeah, as we study these, as we have our encounters, whether they be personal or collective, those experiences take us to the know. So, and we are slowly uprooting those earlier beliefs that we are less than, and we are here to survive, and we are here to support. We're more than that. We're much more than that. In fact, we are what upholds this whole thing. So when we see that, when we get to a place of knowing, it's because we've experienced what we've been studying. We are becoming all these concepts and principles that have eluded man for all these years because he has seen himself as less than. And that even includes the man who thinks he's superior. He's less than he can ever he's less than the materialism will ever elevate him to being. He'll never reach his full potential because he's never tried to experience the true essence of his spirituality. So yeah, it is a lot stronger than believing.
And I would
And two,
say,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, I was gonna
No, I
say
was just
everything that we've
Go ahead.
everything that has been told us, everything that has been told us was a lie. We have been living a lie, and an illusion is a lie. I just feel that that's what's empowering me. Now that we're learning what we're learning, it's much better for us. It's soul food. That's all I want, Mr. Sheldon. Okay, I'm done.
No, and still, I'm continuing exactly what you and Ron just said. Believing controls your experience, or believing dictates your experience. Knowing is who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And see what Evelyn has shown today, or said, and what you have explained. I am not struggle with it, and that I don't believe it, because I do, but I separate myself more than I should, because what she is saying, what has to be embraced to me, that helps me, is to see that I am every man. I don't always see that when I see a situation. So these things that I see, just like if I study the scripture, if I look at the characteristics of Jezebel, if I look at the characteristic of Enoch, if I look at the characteristics of a Joseph, all of those are in me. All of those represent the personality traits of man. So if all of that is in me, all of that I see now is also in me. So my struggles are when I separate that, when I see things that seem to be contrary to where my beliefs are, but it is in man, so it is not something that you can't deal with. You don't let that overpower you. And it starts, and as much time that I sat on this phone and said that, the start changes in you. When you start to see yourself and believe and experience those differences and see that's what changes man. So going back to what Evelyn said, I agree with wholeheartedly. I still not quite on that in that place, but I agree wholeheartedly. That's the key to all of this.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
I just got home, but I think I know what you guys are talking about. How dealing with getting to that place where you recognize that everything and every personality, every characteristic is in you.
Yes.
I saw something the other day, and I actually read it, and this guy was talking about characteristics of the earth in relation, energy rather, in relationship to man. And one of the things, of course, he said that you should try this if you are depressed or if you're feeling sick, headache, whatever. If you embrace a tree, the energy from that tree goes into you. You draw the energy from that tree, and it will bring balance, and it will put you in harmony with the universe. In addition, one of the things that really caught my attention was this, that the universe is always listening. And if you think about that, what that means, that the universe is always listening. That means whether you are speaking verbally or whether you're having thoughts, the universe hears all of it. And if you keep reminding yourself of that when you have those thoughts or when you talk to yourself, it's not you talking to yourself as much as talking to the universe. And when that happens, if it's something that's not conducive to the characteristics of our Creator, you remind yourself that the universe hears all things. And it teaches you over time to be more cautious of what you say, and you will begin doing it without even thinking about it. That's all. Thank you.
And that in itself serves as a remarkable check or rebalancing of itself, of the intention that we talked about in real time. And so with that consciousness of walking around thinking about that or being sensitive to that, when we talked about a few weeks ago, part of that intention is a work in constantly, in a sense, putting yourself back on a certain path, or in a sense, you continue to check on yourself, and that takes work. And as you continue to do that, in a sense, a habit forms where that becomes more so of your normal just being. All of that is taking place, kind of like a self-reflection, self-checking, self-rebalancing. I'm finished.
Sheldon, I like that because, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just interrupting. I just have so much inside. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I'm to the place where I am now because I turned the TV off. I realizing that I'm not bad to be by myself. I didn't realize how good it is to be by myself. You know what I mean? The TV felt like it was making me itch. Just spending time with me and realizing, you know what? You got this. You got this, Evelyn. Just continue to enjoy, embrace what's coming to you, what you're dealing with. Just embrace it because there's goodness in everything. Everything is good. Everything is light. So that's where I am again. But that's all I want to say.
Well, again, Evelyn, the universe is the one you're having a conversation with as well. And you keep reminding yourself of that keeps you in rhythm with the universe. But the moment that we allow something that we deem to be negative or something that we deem to be hurtful, when we embrace that get distracted by that, rather, it is then that we have to pull ourselves back, reminding ourselves that the reason you feel that way is because your thoughts in regards to it, or you're talking to yourself about it, and that reminds you that you need to stay in rhythm with the universe. So what you are actually talking about when you're talking about being with yourself and feeling good with yourself, that's because you're in rhythm with the universe. The moments that you don't feel good about you, then that creates a problem, because the question becomes immediately, do you love Evelyn enough, or do you love yourself enough to make sure that you stay in rhythm with the universe? And if the answer to that is yes, then that means that you love yourself enough to be submissive to that energy, and you will find yourself going through obstacle course with being undaunted. It doesn't bother you as it once did, and if it does, it only bothers you for an instant, and it's over with, because you're reminded that the universe hears everything, and if the universe hears everything, then the universe also feels everything. You are the universe, and the universe is you. Therefore, it feels what you feel as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor, and Ron and Shelley.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Well, something else that you had said a little while earlier, I couldn't speak at the time. Ron also, as you mentioned, several of you all mentioned Enoch walking with God, and we often look at that as Enoch, in a sense, giving up his life to walk with God. But I wanted to point out, it wasn't as if he was really giving up something, or he lost something in doing that, as if it was a sacrifice. And as an analogy with that, in terms of the richness of the life, the fulfilling life that he was able to live or experience or walking in God, what that is more so to portray is going back to using the simple analogy, poverty, wealth, etc. As he was living a human life, that human life was an experience of itself, but at the same time, it was, in a sense, lesser than. And if you want to compare that with him walking with God, that is a more fulfilling and bountiful life. So we would say one of exuberance, of greatness. So in a sense, that sacrifice, so to speak, or giving up, to make it very, very simple, would be giving up a life of poverty to then add to his life and then live a life of great wealthiness, in a sense. So when we talk about the sacrifice, we often may see as we're giving up, something, but what you're giving up, in a sense, is giving up less than. Yes, it is totally different. You're giving up something, but just because you're giving up something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're losing out in any way.
May I speak to that as well? I don't know what you said about Enoch prior to my getting on. However, I want to offer this as a supposition of maybe a reality. You are determine what it is. Suppose that Enoch was, when it says that Enoch walked with God and he was no more, suppose that what that is actually saying is that Enoch became in rhythm with the universe and was able to maintain that rhythm, and that means that he was no different than the personality from Ron, Elvin, Sheldon, whomever, that personality exists. And once you are in continuous rhythm with the universe and you are able to stay in that rhythm regardless of the distraction you face, then you are no more. It doesn't mean you left your body. It means that who you were, you're no longer that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense, and that's definitely more so. Well, in different terms, you added to exactly what I was saying, or said it in different terms. I agree 100%.
Yeah, I see that too. In fact, that's what I started off looking at, because I saw it from the perspective of you talking about giving up your free will. He gave up his free will, that he was no longer had the ambitions of Enoch. He had the ambitions of the universe, had the ambitions of Elohim. So I couldn't agree with you more. I started to talk about that this morning, but what kind of threw me was the direction that Hebrews 11 takes when it talks about Enoch, and it's further illustrate that he was no more, that God took him up, and I didn't see it that way, and I think sometimes it sounds a bit arrogant to disagree with scriptures. But I left it alone for now until I could look at it further. But I couldn't agree more. That's how I see it. That's exactly how I see it.
Ron, it's not that you're disagreeing with scripture; it's that you're disagreeing with the translators. And you can find multiple places where the translators could not be more wrong than what they are.
Yeah.
So this idea of being as was Enoch. You said something. You said a mouthful. You said that he had no longer had ambitions for Enoch. He had ambitions for the universe and ambitions in line with the Creator. It seems on the surface like, okay, yeah, I can see that. But think about this. He did not have ambitions for humanity at all. He had ambitions to be one with the universe. And that in itself is what brings balance to humanity. We can't focus on humanity to become one with the energy if we don't understand that our focus is being one with the universe. Why? Because we don't know how to bring humanity to a place of balance if we are not in a rhythm with the universe on a continuous basis. And I think the greatest rhythm that we experience, being that with the universe, is when we do Saturday, Sunday, Monday, while we're with each other. It's a heck of a lot easier to be in rhythm with. And that's the reason we get the questions and the responses to the questions that we get, because of that rhythm with the universe. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you can't be in rhythm with the universe absent these discussions that we have. But I am saying that it is easier to remain in rhythm with the universe when we are engaged than it is during our everyday walk in life. And I do believe that once we are able to maintain the rhythm during the week that we have these discussions, that is when we will begin to see more harmony, not just with humanity, but within ourselves as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. Anyone else? Any further questions or comments on that?
Yeah, I wanted to add on to that a little bit. Only reason I'm saying this is I think it's very powerful to make this point as it relates to free will and going back to the point and actually losing something. And I was thinking about this as Pastor Richard was speaking. Enoch isn't actually giving up his free will. It's his will that is changing. And so, but he still has free will. So if we think about,
I like that stuff.
We
Yeah,
we
go ahead.
can live. We can.
I like
Oh
that.
no, sorry. We can live our lives, and all of us at some point have experienced living our lives solely for ourselves, and therefore our will lies with ourselves as an individual. We've all experienced at some point as well, at some point in our life, um, experiencing life where we actually see or act or live with at least one other person besides ourselves in mind, whether that be a family member, a loved one, a child, a parent, whatever. In that particular situation, we have then experienced going from acting out our free will as an individual to enacting our free will as a couple or a small group, family, etc. We still have free will. It's just that which we viewed ourselves as being connected to, being a part of, expanded. So Enoch didn't actually give up his free will at all. He lost nothing. His will just was not just concerned to seeing Enoch separate, but it was seeing Enoch as part of the Creator, and therefore it was then that, as a reflection of who he then saw himself as and identified with, his will was changed in that way, being concerned with all of who he was. And what he was is then the universe with the Father.
Beautifully,
Michelle,
beautifully.
yeah, you triggered something when you said that, because we talked about being in a relationship with someone, whether it be you live in that same house, or it doesn't matter, just a relationship. When we talk about that, and we say that, yeah, we're tight, we're close, and I respect you, I'll do anything for you. Well, we need to think about that, because the Western mindset, when we talk about doing anything for someone, it speaks mostly to what I can buy for you, pay for on your behalf, or give you. That's the easy part of doing anything for someone. The difficult part is, what are you going to do when I need you the most? Meaning, what are you willing to do for me when I'm wrong, when I'm totally wrong? Will you stand by me or abandon me? What are you willing to do for me when I'm sick? What do you draw the line? What is it that what you sign up for when you say I'll do anything for you? What does that mean to you in regards to being one? Well, this is the thing I do believe is clear, at least to me anyway. I'm hoping to you as well. That is, when we make statements like that, it's just another way of saying I am what you need me to be when you need me to be it. And the question is that true with you? Is that true? Are you willing to console me when I'm angry with you, or are you willing to talk with me when I'm being nasty to you? Are you willing to just be quiet and then bid your time, find a good place to talk to me, a good time to speak with me, or to pull me back into the rhythm with the universe? Are you willing to do those type of things? Because the easy part is what you can give in terms of finances or material things. Thank you.
Good stuff, y'all. Questions or comments? Anybody? I love this. This is
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
I wanted to get Pastor's take on what we were talking about earlier. Pastor, we were talking about Cain and why Cain was allowed to continue existing. And we thought we were talking about them, Cain and Abel, as being thoughts of Adam. But we were saying why Cain was allowed to carry on and continue and couldn't be killed. And sort of the conclusion we came to was that because the Creator allows us to take our journey, find our way, until we can finally come to realize who we are. So he allows us that opportunity. But could you speak to that issue a little bit? Thank you.
Sure. Ron brought something to my attention about the 5th chapter of Genesis speaking of the genealogy of Adam. And missing from that genealogy is Cain and Abel. And the question he raised was why? I don't think either one of us saw that at that moment, but I know I did. But I think I see it now in relationship to what you're asking, Audrey. And the way I see that is the reason Cain was able to continue is because it was not a man who was able to continue as much as it was a confusion about religion itself. And even though he killed Abel, it doesn't mean that he murdered a man. It is the journey that Abel was on, that journey to become one with the Creator, being submissive to it, that energy, and the idea and thought of Cain being that which we suffer from to this day, and that is religion. And the consolation was found in that when the two were merged, when Cain and Abel were merged into Seth, the thought of Seth was a combination of both. And being a combination of both gave an opportunity for the decision to be made to continue the pathway of Abel or continue the pathway of Cain. And what we have chosen to do now is to continue the pathway of Abel, even though we have interludes with the Cain attitude, the Cain principle, and that is seen in the depths of religion. And regardless of where we are in our understandings, we still have a tinge of that. We have not gotten to the place where the principle of Cain is completely foreign to us. It is the struggles that we face that makes us aware or keeps us aware that the Cain principle is still present. When we are in rhythm with the universe as we are now, we see the Abel principle, and that Abel principle takes us to a place where we seek and desire more of this experience of being in rhythm with the Creator, of being one with the energy forces that are divine. I hope that helps. Gives you some perspective, rather, on the question you brought up, Audrey. Thanks.
Yes, thanks.
You're welcome, lady. Ron?
I'm here. I'm just kind of chewing on what you said.
I know you have some thoughts. Been looking at it a long time.
We've so let me think about my question first. You said that Seth was both, and I'm trying to see that. I see Cain being kept alive as for what you've said. not only as part of your past and your experience and helping you to move forward, but it also gives you choice. But I don't see it as being a part of Seth, the Cain portion. I guess I'm still trying to see that. I don't see Seth as being both. I see Seth as being the mature part that Abel was not able to become. And maybe we're saying the same thing.
The reason I say that is because of the genealogy, right? The genealogy in that 5th chapter omits Cain and Abel. Why?
Yeah.
Because,
And
because go ahead.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, I'm thinking it. Be thinking out loud. Go ahead. I'm trying to see this.
What I'm saying is that let's erase the mental picture of them being men, and think about the principle of spirituality as well, of religion and spirituality. Let's see these two things differently, okay? Let's look at the Abel principle as being that we see things spiritually, and we kind of sort of hold it over everybody's head because we're a word church, you know, and the other people don't see what we see, and as a result of that, the word church is written off by religion, and the thoughts of it dies. What do you mean it dies? It dies because it doesn't take into account the immaturity of other people or the lack of understanding. However, when the genealogy comes into play, it becomes Abel and Seth, Abel and Cain in one, because that's who we are. We have both the principle of religion in us, and we could very easily, which some of us did, move into that arena of the charismatic. And what happened, I know for me and most of you, when we did that, what did we see? We saw them looking down on people because they were not making the sacrifices that they were making. We saw them looking down on people because they thought they understood that what other people didn't. And as a result of that, we drew back from that. And we stayed with the scriptures as opposed to holding on to a doctrine that was not that much different than the doctrine of religion itself. And the only thing it did was speak to a type of spiritual, and I put this in air quotes, spiritual freedoms that we had not experienced prior to. And because it did not free itself from the religious principles, it became a business. And becoming a business, it became all about the money. It became all about making the man of God extremely wealthy, while the people of God remained either comfortable or poor. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I see what you mean now. I see it. Okay. Thank you.
And to those on the phone, that's what we mean when we talk about this. Let's just keep talking through this thing, because there are times we just don't see it until we talk about it, you know. So anyway, I'm done. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments, guys? Anyone?
Pastor, let me ask a follow-up. I can see where those Cain and Abel being brought together in Seth. But why does it say that Cain was allowed to live on, carry on, and couldn't be killed? I mean, what does it mean spiritually in terms of Cain being thoughts?
Okay. Without Cain, we would not have free will. What Cain does, it gives us opportunity to choose between being rebellious or being submissive. And
Okay.
we were rebellious and didn't even know it when we were in religion. Does that make sense?
Yes, because I was saying that Cain was our opportunity to mature and to come to know who we are.
Yes.
I think another important thing to see in all of this is that at the same time, in a sense, Cain was just going along with that free will. Cain was not discarded. Cain was still provided for and supported as Cain went through this transition to, in a sense, come into more balance, turning into self.
You know, Sheldon, we meaning we who are steeped in religion, we've made Abel the man of God and Cain the evil one, the devil, in religion. When in essence, if we really think about it, Abel was just as arrogant as was Cain. It was just in a different way. Thanks.
Yeah, I think all of it is about a personal, or it can be looked at as in terms of even an individual, I don't want to say a personal journey of growth, in a sense. And like I said, bringing balance to those things. And even in order to bring that balance, there has to be an acknowledgement and accepting of both of those parts, because you're not actually discarding anything. It's just that those things are being brought into alignment and connectedness. But it's which is also a Western mindset. We're not cutting off and disregarding or throwing away anything. That's not how things work in a sense. All of it is still part of creation, and is with that acknowledgement and for lack of a better word, respect or an acknowledgement, while acknowledging that being part of creation, that is one of the things that powers that balancing or jointness or bringing, an alignment. That's one of the things that powers that into taking place.
Yeah, okay. Let me ask you something. Not you, Sheldon, but everyone. So with that understanding, what do we go with? And Abel's blood cried out from the ground. How does that fit into what we are talking about? How do we make sense of that? It's not Abel's blood crying out from the ground because he was so correct, as much as it is Abel's blood crying out. Abel's life is crying out from the ground. Why? Because this whole idea of spirituality is true, but it was corrupted. And what I'm saying is this: we went to the charismatic because it sounded like they were more spiritual. And what happened is there was still a cry inside of us because Abel saw something after the principle was pushed to the side or died. What he saw was there was more to that principle. And what that crying is talking about, the life of the spirituality that Abel thought he had, that he was searching for, is still crying out. And the cry came in the way of questions, by the way of questions from us. Why did Jesus do what he did? Why is it that we are so afraid to say he was married? What's the problem with that? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I see, rather, when it speaks of the blood crying out from the ground, because it is from the ground, the dirt of the ground, that the body was constructed. So it is the earth consciousness that Abel was crying out, that his life was crying out from, because he saw something different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that, Pastor. Can I ask you another question? Take it a step forward, or further, rather not forward, but further. I did not touch this when we discussed it because I did not have an answer. But if you look at this, Eve is the one that names all of them. So if she is the fork in the road, and if she is the mother of all living, what role does she play in these first two extremes? And then what does she play in the role of the development of Seth? Because it is from her loins that these thoughts come.
Are you asking a question? You about to answer it?
How did I set this up? Didn't I say I ain't touched this because I ain't know the answer?
There can be no existence of any principle in the earth that's not birthed from the womb. Think about it. The reason wisdom is dark is because wisdom is in the womb. Is in the womb of life, and the reason wisdom is, they say that wisdom, everyone knows that wisdom rather is feminine. It's talking about the feminine womb, and out of that feminine womb comes what? The seed, or the birth rather, of understanding, and that understanding results in an experience. So if there is no womb, then there is no life to anything. And keep in mind that it is said that from the life of everything that lives came Cain and Abel, Seth, etc. You see what I'm talking about, Ron?
Okay.
But there is no life without the presence, acknowledgement, and embracing of the feminine energy. And that's the bottom line, because if you look at nations of the past, you will see things that people don't really pay attention to. Take into account, for example, in Angola, the king of Angola was a female, right?
Okay.
And take into account what happened in Hawaii when the U.S. threatened to bombard Hawaii with military armament if the king of Hawaii did not submit. Keep in mind that the king of Hawaii was a female. It was a woman who led them. And if you look at history, you will find that the overwhelming majority of people were guided by feminine energy. And that's simply because there can be no life without it. And the name of all of that is the naming by Eve is more of the principle of being birthed than that is a naming like we are named, when we are born. Does that make sense?
So that's the part I'm getting at. Her naming them had to be more of a feeling. It had to be in something she was experiencing. I guess I see her role more active in this than we've given her credit.
Let's take her out of it. Let's see it as energy.
Okay.
Let's see this as energy. She. It wasn't a she as much as it was a principle, a feminine principle, right? And the feminine principle says that nothing exists in this earth unless it comes through a womb. So, in order for us to be able to recognize the tree of our functionality and that of dysfunctionality, we had to have something to compare it to. And the principle of Eve is separate from the principle of all the things that came from that womb, because that womb was birthing everything that was necessary for us to experience, yes, free will, but at the same time, experience a desire to be submissive to the origin of our existence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got to listen to that again, but I see it hard anyway.
I have a question.
Hmm.
So is the female, the feminine energy or feminine concept, is it black matter?
Pastor?
Hello?
Can-
Pastor. Yeah, okay. It is in that there is no existence without the life of that black matter of which you speak, Ellen. None. Nothing exists without it. And that is that element is a physical representation of a spiritual truth that is shown to us by virtue of telling us, showing us this allegory that involves this entity named Eve, as opposed to showing us a woman, physical woman, who was named Eve, that came that is talked about in this particular story. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I know it's more layers to this because I feel
Yes,
it.
ma'am. It is.
I'll just stop right there.
Okay. I have to go now, but I wanted to get on for as long as I could before I had to leave. Okay.
Thank you. We
So-
appreciate everything.
Yes, sir. And I'll do my best to be back tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. We've had a great discussion, guys. Any thoughts or questions before we close? I hope this makes sense or has made sense. I love our input. I love when we discuss things out and ask questions and give give our own view of things and bring them all together. So this has been quite enlightening to me. And again, I encourage you to ask more questions if you have them. And we'll pick up tomorrow if that's okay. Pick up tomorrow here, or maybe we'll have a different thought. Don't know. We'll see. But I hope you have a great day. If there are no final thoughts or questions, I'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you, family.